on the show. Also, our special guest Donovan Mitchell will be joining the show to help us break down Game 3. We'll hear from LeBron James. I mentioned KD will be here on the show with us. Also, Draymond Green will be on the show. Rachel Nichols, Ryan Windhorst, Mark Spears, our experts with their insights. Tim Legler, you know the touchscreen is coming. Stephen A. Smith live from the floor. He picked Cleveland to win this game. I thought they'd win a game as well. Now I don't know if they can get on the board. Show starts now.
Brand new ESPN app. Now with ESPN Plus. Get more ESPN and download now.
What's happening? Welcome in. This is SportsCenter. I am Scott Van Pelt. Everything Game 3 related that we just discussed is on the way. Tim Legler will be sitting out here in moments from now. Kevin Durant, Draymond Green will be by to talk to me about their come-from-behind victory. But first, as we do it, remember that, Cleveland Cavalier fans, as you sit here right now down 3-0. The way this game began back in Cleveland, you needed someone to hit shots, right? You got shot makers. They've been getting open looks, but they've been missing those open looks. Well, early on, you had a combination of J.R. Smith and Kevin Love hitting threes, a double-digit lead. The building is alive, and it feels like, all right, maybe the Cavs are going to get this one. But Kevin Durant with a couple of key shots right before the end of the first half. I'm going to ask him about those when he joins us a little bit later. And then ultimately a shot late that looks so much like what we saw last year from, 32 feet? That ultimately is the difference, really the key moment in this game. A game where Steph couldn't buy one, finally hit a three to give him a 4-point lead, and then Durant steps into that from, they said it was 32, whatever it is. He's 6 feet beyond the line, steps into that. JR tries to challenge, and Durant, the thin man, ruthless, absolutely ruthless and cold-blooded, doesn't show any emotion as Draymond behind him is yelling in his ear. And this is a game Cleveland obviously has to have if it wants to have any opportunity to get back into this series. And I have to imagine it's soul-crushing given the fact that, again, the building was alive, the double-digit lead as they had in Game 1. But this time you're at home. People are making shots. Steph Curry is missing everything. He was 1 of 14, his first 14, 0 for 9 from 3. You got to get this game, and they don't. And Tim Legler, who joins us now, as you take inventory, I'll let you pick where you want to begin first, whether it's Durant, and I imagine that's where we should start because he was just spectacular. Yeah. Where do you begin with his performance?
You go back to the first half. I know he closed the deal at the end of the game, and it was reminiscent of what he did in Game 3 last year. This team's down 15 points at halftime if it's not for Kevin Durant in the first half. They had nothing going offensively other than his greatness and shot-making ability. So I thought he really put them on his back the last 8 to 10 minutes of the half just to get them within striking distance. Because I look at the beginning of this game, Scott, Cleveland came out with appropriate level of energy. They were physical, getting offensive rebounds. They had guys contributing, like J.R. Smith made some shots early. Kevin Love was hot early in the game.
Those guys combined for 25 in the first half. It's got to be somebody other than LeBron. Those guys gave you 25 in the first half. But to the point, into the highlights we just showed, those two, the and one and the three, made it a 6-point game.
Yeah, you do all those things, and you're up, and you go on a 15-8 run to end the half. 6, you're still up, feels different. We talk about all the time closing quarters. I just thought Durant kept them afloat and then obviously sealed the deal down the stretch. Now, he did get pretty much what he wanted against who he wanted it most of the night. And there were a few possessions late when I thought LeBron James, who was waiting on him at half court, I'm talking about big possessions, he easily handed him off and readily handed him off on a screen that did not necessarily facilitate a switch. And I was curious there because, and you heard those guys talk about it in the postgame a little bit, say, what about the old days when you would just say, no, what, not anymore, this is mine now. We don't really see that anymore unless you're a specialty type defensive player like a 3-and-D type guy that's going to get that guy the whole time. And I really wanted to see LeBron take on that challenge because clearly the guys he was getting the switches could not really contest them. They look like they're contested shots, not for a guy like Kevin Durant. Freedom of mind over Kevin Love, over George Hill, J.R. Smith. It's different than when you get a guy like LeBron James up in your face who can actually challenge that shot at a higher level.
And I think back to the Steve Kerr line, and honestly at this point I've forgotten when he said it, but he said he's the ultimate luxury. Yeah. And a night like this shows exactly why he's the ultimate luxury, because as a team on the road, you can absorb this type of performance from one of your very best players in Steph Curry and still win a game. I think this is the exhibit A of exactly what Kerr is talking about.
Yeah, normally if you don't get out of Curry, then that means Klay Thompson probably had 25. He didn't really do much tonight either. It was the individual great shot making of Kevin Durant. And this is what it is to be on that level where you can literally score from any part of the floor over guys. Like the contested shot making ability that he put on display tonight. This is why Kevin Durant is who he is. But again, that's Kyle Korver. It looks like he does a nice job.
Right.
In Kevin Durant's mind, that's Kyle Korver. He's not going to react to me as quickly, so I'm going to shoot this ball over the top. This was a play when LeBron handed him off to Kevin Love. He gets where he wants to 12 feet. Now, this is stupid. This is 35-footer, and two guys are out there.
Right.
But it didn't matter once he got flowing like that. But I really thought if you go back and look at the close of the second quarter, it set up what he did late in the game, and it set up their ability to be up 3-0.
I agree, and that's why I jotted that down, because, I mean, obviously we'll talk about the end game, and we'll talk about the massive numbers on the page, but I'm really curious what that, in his mind, was worth going into halftime and cutting that lead down to just 6. I mentioned Steve Kerr in the comments he had about Durant before, and his comments about this evening's performance just moments ago.
We've got a lot of depth. We've got a lot of guys who can play, and they're all chipping in. But we should probably go back to Kevin Durant, shouldn't we? That was amazing what he did out there tonight. Some of those shots, I don't think anybody in the world can hit those but him. He was incredible.
At some point, did you just switch and just say, Kevin, we're going to initiate everything with you, and maybe Steph get in the corner there and let's see what Kevin can do here? Yeah, I mean, we're obviously running a lot of screen and rolls, and Steph was not making his shot, but Kevin got it rolling, so we just flipped it around and we had Steph set a couple screens for him, but we basically just tried to initiate with Kevin, and he made so many great difficult shots, but he also had 7 assists, and he's moving the ball. I just like the way he's attacking. He's not waiting around. He's attacking right away on the catch, and it's devastating to have to guard that.
How does Cleveland stomach this? How do they move forward?
I mean, they're in the same boat, right? So you say, what are you going to muster? For me, Golden State is going to have to contribute to their own demise for Cleveland to win on Friday night.
A game?
A game.
Okay.
The one thing they haven't done to them in this little series we've had over the last 4 years is sweep them. And in the kind of year Golden State had, 58 wins, not normal for them. Some moments in the postseason we're kind of questioning what's going on. What better way to validate exactly who you are and get the train back on the track than to sweep this team? It's the one thing they haven't done, so I do expect Golden State to be pretty focused on Friday. And to do it in their building, you wonder, would that close the curtain on LeBron in Cleveland forever? Because there won't be a part 3, you wouldn't think. Tim, more to come with you a little bit later. And more to come. Stephen A. Smith is standing by in Cleveland. We will get his thoughts, and special guest Donovan Mitchell, who had a hell of a rookie year. Really interested to get his perspective on the level of play he saw, a level he aspires to, but he was watching like a fan this evening. We continue on SportsCenter, Game 3 in Cleveland. Early on, it was all LeBron and the home team. Late, it was the ruthlessness of Kevin Durant. Here to Draymond, goes backdoor to Steph, who had a miserable shooting night, finally sees the ball go through the bucket. Kevin Love has it taken by who? There's that guy, Andre Iguodala. In transition, finally, a guy that made 9 threes in his last game, missed his first 9, puts that in, they're up 4. Up to J.R. Smith, miss. This was a great possession where they got multiple looks, and LeBron pulls and hits. It's a 1-point game. On the other end, down the lane, Iguodala again. This is a Finals MVP they get back in this game. Here LeBron bullying Curry. Tristan can't get it to fall. A loose ball corralled by Golden State, and then with the shot clock beginning to wind down, all 3 of these. That is absolutely cold-blooded from Durant, who shows zero emotion, flatline.
This is what I do. This is who I am. Everyone else is screaming. Steph's screaming. Draymond screaming. Durant's got nothing. Little snarl there just to let everybody know. 43-13-7 from Kevin Durant. He will be joining us in a little bit. Draymond will be joining us in a little bit. But right now we welcome in Stephen A. Smith from Cleveland. And Stephen A., I know you like the home team in this game, and frankly, I did as well. I believed that we would see them do exactly what they did early, but in the end, they weren't able to withstand Kevin Durant. The perspective that you have from what you just saw, what stands out?
Well, the perspective is a couple of things. Number one, Kevin Durant just reminded us why he's a top 3 player on the planet. He was sensational tonight. He showed up big time. He was just as explosive, as far as I'm concerned, as LeBron James was in Game 1 of this series.
No doubt.
He was just looking at guys, demanding the basketball, and completely taking over and showing a level of skill that we simply don't see from normal basketball players throughout this world. He was just on another level. That's number one. Number two, I'm looking at LeBron, and despite the triple-double, I think he made a mistake, Scott, by coming out looking to get others involved instead of looking to set the tone by being aggressive. Paul Pierce and I spoke about that before the game on the 7 o'clock Sports Center. He said LeBron needed to come out and to be aggressive off tap. Go right after them because that was going to set the tone for the rest of the team. He didn't do that. I'm also looking at a pass that he gave up late in the game within 1 point when he decided to pass the ball to Tristan Thompson instead of taking the shot himself.
Right.
And then I'm also thinking about Ty Lue. Ty Lue did not double Kevin Durant. Do you have any explanation for that, Scott? Because I don't. It's a rhetorical question. The fact is, Jeff Van Gundy comes on the air. Jeff Van Gundy comes on the air right before halftime with Kevin Durant ISO'd near the top of the key, and he says, I don't let him ISO. I double him and get the ball out of his hands immediately. Ty Lue didn't do that. Kevin Durant drills a 3 over Larry Nance. Boom, halftime arrives. And don't get me started with what he did in the third and the fourth quarter against anybody and everybody that came in his direction. It was a sensational performance, but if you're Ty Lue and you see Steph Curry struggling and you see Klay Thompson struggling and you're looking at guys like JaVale McGee and Iguodala and Livingston that were making just as much of a contribution as Klay and Steph, who combined for 21 points on 3 of 15 shooting from three-point range, you would think you would double Kevin Durant at some point. He didn't do it. I don't understand why. Those are the reasons to me that they are officially on the brink of elimination, with the broomsticks being surrounding the stadium, actually, because Friday is exactly what we expect.
Yeah, and I understand the point on LeBron, and yet Stephen A., somebody had to help him, and early on he's facilitating, he's setting up guys, and they're finally making those shots, and I think you want to give others an opportunity, but I agree with you that late he can only shoulder so much, but if you're going to go down, I want to go down with him taking that shot. I want to go down with him bullying his way to the basket. Well, I don't want to go down with somebody else with the ball in their hands.
Scott, let me put it to you this way. You've watched basketball. You've been covering basketball at Sports Center for many, many years. You understand the difference between those who have just a certain level of skill. We know that LeBron is a physical specimen. He's extraordinary. We know he's the greatest player in the world. He's 6'9", 260, coming at you. But when times get tight, there's a reluctance to shoot the ball. He wants to engage in bully basketball because he's so much bigger than everybody else. But did you see Kevin Durant? Did you see how nonchalant he was? Did you see how he was looking at guys and saying, do y'all really have a hard time figuring this out? Just give me the ball, please, and let me show you how this is done. And that's exactly what he did. That's why I was going off on him with Game 1, because he's one of the most efficient offensive superstars we have ever seen. Why are you constantly deferring?
Right.
Game 3 tonight, he didn't defer. He looked at the other guys and said, it's y'all turn to defer. Give me the damn ball, echoing Keyshawn Johnson. That's what he got. He got the damn ball, and we saw what he did with it. 43-13. It was a show, and it was special.
It was that. It was that. And we look forward to your show tomorrow morning, and obviously plenty to talk about on First Take. Yep, we'll see you then. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, buddy. All right.
The Finals post-game report is brought to you by TAG, based on a true story. See it in theaters June 15th.
Pleased to welcome Donovan Mitchell into the program, a young man that had a sensational rookie year. And I'm curious, Donovan, as you watch this game in this building, a level to which you aspire to be, how much that you go back to being that kid that was just at Louisville last year and a young man that hadn't even played in the league yet, when you see what these guys are doing at this level and what you learned from what you saw tonight?
Man, I learned a lot, watching these guys, watching Bron, watching KD, watching Steph, all these guys compete. KD stepped up huge. He basically took the game over in his hands. His guys weren't really hitting shots, and he took it upon himself to go out there and have a crazy performance, and that's what killers in this league do. And that last shot was incredible, but the amount of guts and the confidence you had to take that shot is what's really impressed me.
When you and I talked way back before the All-Star game, and I asked you about guys like Westbrook and LeBron coming to you, and I said it felt like they were in your ear because they wanted you to know that they knew you knew, if that makes any sense, that they saw something in you. And yet, as you look at the level that they get to, where do you feel like you have to get better and the steps you need to take to get on that type of level?
I realize everything I'm doing now, I got to do 10 times harder, work much for sure, just to get to this point, let alone win. I got a guy like LeBron who's been there 8 times in a row. Just to get there once is a hard feat and a hard task. And, I'm just here just getting the experience, kind of picking guys' brains that I've talked to on both teams and just ask little questions. I've been spending a lot of time with Vince Carter and Dominique Wilkins and, asking them questions as well, just trying to find ways to get better on the floor and just find ways to get better mentally and things to look for in order to get to this point.
I'm just glad that a young man like you recognizes an OG like Dominique and knows that there's so much you can learn beyond just the dunk contest. But yes. Take me back to Durant. When you see a performance like this, what is it that you see out of him that even you shake your head at as a guy who was doing it in the playoffs not that many weeks and months ago?
With him, it's more so he realized that nobody on the floor can guard him. When guys get into that certain mode and that mindset, it can become scary, and for him to go out there and feel like he's unstoppable, that's probably one of the scariest feelings as a defender, having to guard that.
He is, though, isn't he? He truly is. I mean, given his height and given his range and given his handle, he truly seems to me, Donovan, to be an unstoppable offensive force.
Yeah, he's a 7-foot guard. What can he do shooting from half court? It's tough. It's tough to defend. Guys play great defense and he's still hitting shots. And that's just a sensational performance for him to have tonight in a big, decisive game. And, the way Cleveland came out originally at the beginning, you kind of felt like the weight was shifting. But they stayed the course. And I told my little sister when I was sitting next to her, I said, just make sure that you watch. They can do all the yelling and screaming they want, but they're going to keep it close. And if they keep it close, then it's going to be a good game.
You've been on the brink in the playoffs this year in your first year. You moved on, and you also know what it's like to be in this position where Cleveland finds itself. If you can put yourself in their locker room, having just lost the way they lost in a game where they led at home by double digits, what is the toughest part, Donovan, about trying to summon the emotional and physical energy to be ready to play Friday?
One thing I respect about Kobe Bryant, I watched a lot of his interviews throughout the playoffs. And one thing he says, you can lose by 40, you can lose on a game winner. It doesn't matter. It's on to the next game. And I think LeBron playing in 8 straight, he's going to will his guys. Kevin Love playing in his 4 straight. And JR as well, and Tristan, those guys who have been there are going to tell their guys, look, this is another loss. We got to continue to keep improving and keep working, because, everybody else is counting them out. So why should we count ourselves out? That should be their mindset, and just go out there and take it one game at a time and understanding that the loss is a loss. It happened, but you got another one on Friday.
Donovan, thanks again for the time. I would tell you to enjoy your summer, but knowing you'll probably spend most of it in the lab working on things. I hope you find some time to relax somewhere along the way, because before you know it, you'll be back out there playing again, and we look forward to that. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
SportsCenter on the Road is confidently presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans.
All right, when we continue, we expect that we will visit with Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. Might be Draymond first. We're happy to talk to whomever, whenever, and that will be right after this. We welcome Draymond Green to SportsCenter. Draymond, thanks for stopping in again. I do the same thing you guys do when you sit down at the podium. I look at the box score, and I'm looking at your numbers. And how did you only have 2 rebounds? What happened?
Man, I don't know. I got my hands on a lot of them, and they were kind of getting away from me. I definitely got to be better than that if we want to close out Game 4.
Okay, all right. So we've got that out of the way. The video of Durant hitting that three, you're screaming at his back, Curry's screaming at him in the front, and he's walking like he didn't, like it's a walk in the park, man. How do you describe the performance and the killer mentality that guy possesses?
Man, he really took that game over for us when, we had nothing going there in that second quarter. I picked up my third foul. Steph picked up his third foul. Kerr continued to keep us in the game, and we were down by 6 at halftime. We probably should have been down a lot more, but because of him, getting it going the way he did and taking over, it gave us a chance in the third quarter, and we got off to a good start. He continued to go at it, and that fourth quarter, that three was a huge three, but everything else he did throughout the game is what got us to that point.
Because Cleveland is a championship team, because they've got LeBron, because they're back at home, you all know what you're walking into. You're bound to get their best punch, and you do. But after you survive that and absorb those punches, and the point you make about Kevin before halftime, when you come out of the locker room in the second half, have you guys already cleared a significant mental hurdle because you're still within earshot?
Absolutely. We knew that first quarter, they played really well and they were up 1 point. And we're like, okay, here we go right here after all that is 1 point. Then going into halftime, we're like, all right, we're down 6 after all of that. And so coming out in that third quarter, you're definitely, have cleared the mental hurdle of knowing that, if we lock in on certain things, defend without fouling, push the tempo, the game will turn in our favor. And that's exactly what happened for us.
If I tell you before the game that Steph goes 3 of 16 and doesn't make a three until he's missed his first 9 and you still win, what would you have thought about that? Would you have bought it?
I probably wouldn't have bought it. However, if you told me we won, I'd probably say KD had 50, and he was close.
Yeah, look, greatness is what you guys have been about since you've been together. So nights like this, it's not unusual, and yet performances like this from him, it's not normal. Like this, normal dudes don't go do stuff like this. So I wonder, Draymond, in the midst of it, how much you can even appreciate it because you've seen it so often.
It's really tough to appreciate in the midst of it. You know that he's having a great game. You know that he's keeping us in the game and keeping us in striking distance. But to really have an appreciation for it in that moment is tough. However, we know how great of a player he is. He's one of the greatest players our game has ever seen, and he's capable of doing that. It came at a perfect time for us, though, that's for sure.
Without a doubt. And if you all now have an opportunity to sweep, and because of the fact that you all have played so often here, and there's been all this back and forth through the years, I just wonder how it would magnify the accomplishment if you were able to break out a broom and finish it in 4.
I think at the end of the day, it's just about winning. Obviously we're up 3-0, so the opportunity is to sweep, but that's really not our focus in the fact of like, oh man, we got an opportunity to sweep, let's go after it.
Right.
More so just go after the game because you don't want to give a team confidence and let them win a game. And so I think, tonight was a gut punch, and we have to take advantage of that coming out in Game 4.
All right, no more technicals, all right? Right?
I'll try.
Stop yelling at people. Come on. You're so cordial. We always get along and all the smiles, but out there, it's like you flip a switch, man. No more technicals, okay?
Yeah, it's a different beast on the floor for sure.
Well, I get it. And look, we'll never meet there because I was good when I had hair, but that was a long time ago. So I'm happy to talk to you here, Draymond. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
All right. Much more. On Game 3, we will hear from Kevin Durant. We'll obviously get the perspective from Cleveland as well. LeBron James at the podium after a lead got away. Now they're in a 0-3 hole. League Cup ever. Back to Game 3, and there'll be a number of highlights that will be talked about and shown over the years from this game, but obviously this is the main one. Durant. Shot clock, not a problem. All 3 of these. That took the lead to 6, and for all intents and purposes, put it to bed. Mike Green, great on the mic. Here's what he had to say.
Kevin Durant way outside, delivers! Kevin Durant from downtown. It's a 6-point game. That's the same spot where he had it in Game 3 last year.
Which takes us to Game 3 last year. Wasn't nearly as far last year, but it was hugely significant as that one propelled them to a victory as well. Buckets, good. Ty Lue was asked if it was reminiscent. Yep.
Ty, when Kevin Durant hit that wing three, did you think back to Game 3 of last year? And I know the game is 48 minutes long, but how much do you think that moment signified that they were going to go up 3-0?
It was a big shot. I mean, he was 4 or 5 feet behind the line, and he raised up and made a big shot for him. So, kind of like he did last year.
I think this one was more of a dagger because it put us up 6 rather than just 1 point like last year. But, we still weren't out of the game, even though we were up 6. So you can relax a little more than we did last year because we were only up 1. But that was an amazing shot. I mean, he looked like he was 37, 8 feet outside the rim. So when he's got it going, like I said, he's almost impossible to stop.
I mean, that's what you pray for. When those guys are missing like that, and we're playing great defense, getting offensive rebounds, getting loose balls, stuff like that. And then got a damn 7'2" guard out there cooking, so it's tough.
This is what he works out for. This is what, when he was a kid, this is what he dreamt of. So you can see it manifesting when he's out there playing. He's out there, I feel like he's out there living a dream and doing his thing.
And he is doing his thing. Durant goes off for 43, 13, and 7, the 5th player in NBA history to go 40, 10, and 5 in an NBA final road win. And these are always the fun graphics when you join true royalty, and all those folks that you're on that list with, that's royalty for sure. Sitting next to a guy that shot it made his living shooting the basketball. That was deep, obviously. And we'll talk about this shot, and we should. And we'll talk about his performance, and we should. But they don't win if they don't get some contributions from
definitely other guys, the role players, and uncontested stuff in the fourth quarter. I had people texting me like, "How are they getting so open?" I'm going to show you right now. They had 11 points at the rim uncontested in the fourth quarter alone out of role players.
How'd they get them?
I'll show you, because when you're inconsistent with what you're going to do defensively, it's hard to do it on the fly. And we've been talking so much about these switches. They actually did what we wanted them to do on these sets right here. Take a look at Kevin Love. He's going to shove Andre Iguodala in the back so that when Durant comes off, LeBron can stay with him. That's the guy we want guarding Kevin Durant in a 1-point game in a minute 45. Great. Now, Durant says, you know what, let's try it again. You guys might mess it up. Watch Kevin Love. Arm is out. He's going to shove Andre Iguodala here. Here comes Kevin Durant. Guess what? That lets LeBron James stay on Kevin Durant. So far, so good. But when you're inconsistent with these kind of things, this is what happens. Now you go to a dribble handoff, which really is no more than a ball screen. So you should just let LeBron James slide through here, but that's not what happens. Instead, you're going to get 2 guys jump out on Kevin Durant. Iguodala slips, and take a look. Now as the ball gets advanced, you can see Clay's running through. Tristan Thompson has no idea where the ball is. This kind of makes sense on the weak side of the floor, but I have no idea what Rodney Hood is doing. You got to slide over here, leave Draymond Green. He doesn't do it, and now you give up an uncontested dunk at a critical time in the game. And it all gets back, Scott, to the inconsistency with their coverages.
And Iguodala had a big strip on the other end. You get a Finals MVP back. It's obviously going to help you in many different ways.
Absolutely, no question about it. Here again, you get, LeBron's on him. This is the guy you want on him, right? He wants to stay on him on this possession. Well, Steph comes up and runs like a little slip screen. Problem is when you're inconsistent with your coverages, you get things like this. Rodney Hood jumps out here like it's a double team. So now you got 2 guys up there. Ball gets reversed. You got 1 guy chasing. JR chases off the corner. And now here goes Draymond Green along the baseline. And it's as easy as can be. On the weak side, you're staying connected to shooters. It all gets back to the same thing.
Right.
You want them to switch less, but doing it on the fly in important moments with a team that doesn't practice it, you're going to give up easy stuff. And that's how Jordan Bell, Iguodala, Green, Livingston, all those guys get easy buckets in the fourth quarter when they should be so hard to come by.
All right. Well, I didn't want you to feel any undue pressure, but Kevin Durant was watching intently as you were doing that breakdown. And we welcome Kevin Durant in now to the show. Kevin, thank you for stopping by. And I saw as you were getting mic'd up, you're watching Tim break these things down. You're a studier of film. What do you think of my man Legler's skills with a touchscreen?
The legs should be out on the court, man. He should be out here teaching some of us what to do out there, man. That was some good analysis right there.
Hey, listen, I agree. I will hate to lose him, and I know I'm going to one of these days because he's going to be coaching. But your performance was spectacular. Congratulations. I know that you are one of the most thoughtful critics You said last series that there were games you didn't feel you were yourself. So over the course of these last couple of games, how satisfying is it, Kevin, to be able to impact these finals games the way you have?
Well, I'm just doing my job, you know, trying to give effort on the defensive side of the ball and rebound as much as I can, and offensively just be aggressive when I have it, play within the flow of the offense, and, you know, just try to help the team win as much as I can outside of just scoring the ball. So it's been a you know, tough playoffs for us as far as just an up and down roller coaster, but I like where we are right now, up 3-0 in the finals with a chance to go back to back. You know, I'll take that.
Obviously, the shot at the end of the game is going to be talked about a lot. We've shown it already a bunch, but I want to ask you about a couple of shots before the end of the first half. You get an and one, and then you hit a three before the half ends, and that cuts what was a double-digit deficit down to 6. Kevin, how significant was it, in your opinion, to basically reduce the impact of how well they played? Because they were great, but you cut that lead to 6.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's a 48-minute game, and, you know, the end of quarters are always the most important, especially in the playoffs. And we knew this team came out with a lot of energy and was feeding off their crowd, and we just, you know, I just tried to do my best to, you know, inject myself into the game with my aggressiveness on the offensive side of the ball, and, you know, shots went in for me, and, you know, we was able to get a little bit of momentum going into the half.
How much of an advantage is that, just to know that you have the ability to avalanche people the way you have, and you did it to Houston a bunch, and it has to be in Cleveland's head that, oh God, we played really well, but man, in 2 minutes they could have the lead, and you basically did. You guys came out and very quickly you had the lead. I just wonder what having that hammer in your back pocket is worth, even if it's not being used.
Well, the beauty of the game is the movement and the way you play off of each other, and I think we do such a good job of, you know, not being too predictable out there. You know, we might hit Draymond for a dunk, or get Andre in there for a slip, or Steph and Clay hitting threes, or I'm coming off shooting the mid-range. So we just try to be unpredictable and use everybody on our team, and I think that's to our advantage when we move the ball. That's beautiful basketball. That's why the game is. That's why we play the game, is to kind of play off of each other, and we know that we always got that in our back pocket along with good talent. So, you know, we want to try to have a good balance between the both, of giving it to our best players, but also playing within the team concept. So I thought tonight we did a solid job of both.
Earlier we had some sound from JaVale McGee, and he said of you, you're just living the dream. And last year when you and I spoke after you won, it was obviously the first time here. A second time through, just your familiarity with all that comes with this and the level of comfort and this type of performance, I mean, does all of that speak to how a performance like this comes together? Because it looks easy, I know it isn't, but does it all come as a byproduct of just sort of where your game has evolved to?
Yeah, and I just think it's the work that you put in, you know, all season that prepares you for this moment. I think, you know, just sticking with my routine every single day as a basketball player, just trying to come in and get better every day, just come in with an open mind to work, and, you know, just be open to teaching from anybody on our coaching staff. And I think, you know, just staying settled into that, it you know, keeps me focused on, you know, what's important, and that's just playing ball every day and getting better and keep, you know, always learning. So now when I'm at this point, you know, the experience that we went through last year can help me out this year, just, you know, knowing what to expect from, you know, games and, you know, runs and being on the road, and, you know, just so much that you go through, you just gain experience.
Last quick thought, and I appreciate your time and patience with me here. The shot you make at the end is what will be on loop on all our shows all night and all morning long. But it's just part of the performance. Is that the shot, that the moment that's the most satisfying of this entire evening, or is there something else in particular that you'll take that you enjoyed the most about what you were able to do?
I just love our poise throughout the game. I love how we stayed with it no matter what. You know, nobody didn't really, you know, splinter. We just stayed together, especially when we were down. A couple calls didn't go our way, we felt like, and we just kept playing. You know, Coach called some great sets. I thought it was just a whole group effort tonight. You know, shots might not have went in from Steph and Clay like they normally do, but they came out and played great defense. They moved the ball, we moved our bodies, and allowed everybody else to be effective. So it's good when we just all working together from coaching staff all the way to the last player on the bench.
That was pretty deep and a pretty big moment right there. That was and quite a reaction. That's just sort of what you do, and it was a hell of a night, Kevin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Congratulations and good luck.
Appreciate that.
One more. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, man. From Kevin Durant, we were going to welcome in Rachel Nichols. Rachel, if you'll forgive me for just one quick second, there's only one person that would trump you at this moment, and I think you know who it is. His name's LeBron James. He's going to sit down to tell us what happened. I'll be to you in a minute, Rachel. Here's LeBron.
Barber, Santa Rosa Press, Democrat. The core of this Cavs team has remained consistent the last few years, but you've got a lot of new teammates on this team from a few months ago. Are you confident that your teammates can mentally reset after this tough loss and be where they need to be for Game 4?
I mean, it's definitely a tough loss, and we had our chances. But we have another opportunity on Friday, to win on our home floor. Well, we've been, pretty good, throughout the postseason, that's a good thing for us that we have an opportunity to, extend the series, but we got to come out and we got to play for 48 minutes. We know this team that we're going against are, the best third quarter team in the NBA. And once again, they showed that tonight by outscoring us by 8 after we had a lead at halftime. So we have to be dialed in and play like we did the first half and in the fourth quarter tonight.
Robert in the middle.
Robert Littau, BSO. You twisted your ankle pretty badly there in the first half. How is that feeling? And Kevin Love was just in here, and he talked about the margin of error being so small with the Warriors, especially in Game 1 and Game 3. But how does that give you guys confidence going forward, knowing that how close you actually were to winning those games?
I mean, to answer your second question first, the margin of error is very low. I mean, you can't. It's almost like, playing the Patriots. You just can't have mistakes. They're not going to beat themselves. When you're able to either force a miscue on them, you have to be able to capitalize, and then you have to be so in tune and razor sharp and focused every single possession. You can't have miscommunication. You can't have laws. You can't have my faults or my bads and things like that, because they're going to make you pay. And when they make you pay, it's a 3-0 or 6-0 or 9-0 run, and it's, and it comes in bunches. So, the room for error is just, you just can't have it. And we know throughout the course of a 48-minute game, there are going to be plays where, it was a miscue there or it was a miscue there. But, for the most part, throughout 48 minutes, you just can't have a bunch of those, especially against this team. To answer your first question, yeah, I twisted it pretty good, but I'll be in the lineup on Friday.
Joe here in the front.
LeBron, 2 questions, and both are bigger picture. First, now that you've been in this series with Durant and the Warriors now twice, can you articulate just how Durant has changed the complexion of this series and rivalry?
No, well, I mean, guys, you guys asked me what's the difference between the Warriors. You guys asked me this last year. What was the difference between the Warriors the previous year and this year? What was my answer? All right, there it is. Kevin Durant was my answer. He's one of the best players that I've ever played against, that this league has ever seen. His ability to handle the ball, shoot the ball, make plays at his length, at his size, at his speed. So there it is.
And then the other one, I understand you guys are down 3-0, but you've been very close twice, and they almost lost in the Western Finals. And so the question is, are they at all maybe more vulnerable than you thought they were earlier in the year, mid-year, something like that?
At the end of the day, if you want to compete for a championship or win a championship, you got to go through the champion. And they're the champion, and no matter, everyone gets so caught up on saying they're vulnerable or they're not playing so well, and then they go down 3-2, and then they go to somebody else's floor and win, or they win at home and send it back to somebody else's floor and win in a Game 7. That's what championship teams do. That's what championship players do. They rise to the occasion, and that's what Golden State has done the last 4 years.
Tim, back right.
Tim Reynolds, AP. Bron, even for someone like you who notoriously can have singular focus on one thing more often than not, how difficult will the next 48 hours be to just lock in on Game 4, not think about how 1 and 3 got away or what might happen this summer? How tough will it be even for you to stay in this moment?
Well, Tim, I mean, for me, tonight will be tough. Tomorrow I'll replay some plays and some moments, things of that nature. When I wake up Friday morning, I'll be locked in on the game plan and what needs to be done to help our team win. And that's just who I am. And the rest of the night will be tough. Not sure what time I end up getting to bed. Tomorrow we come in, we watch some film, so it'll replay in my mind, throughout the day. But Friday morning when I wake up, I'll be locked in and ready for Game 4.
Dave, standing on the left.
Dave McMahon, ESPN. LeBron, do you just tip your hat when KD makes the same shot from the left wing he made in Game 3 last year? And how difficult is a shot? He may make it look pretty attainable, but how difficult a shot is that?
No, that wasn't the same shot. The one he made tonight was about 4 or 5 feet behind the one he made last year. Last year, you know, we were up 2, and you know, he pulled up pretty much right at the three-point line. I got a great contest, but he made it. Tonight, you know, they're up 3. He come off a pick and roll, and he just stopped behind it, pour about 4 or 5 feet behind the three-point line. So, you know, same wing, different location, but you definitely tip your hat. I mean, that's what he does. He's a scorer. You know, he's an assassin, and that was one of those assassin plays right there.
Ray Jeske, ESPN 990. Last game, Steph goes off an NBA Finals record 9 threes. This time you hold him to 1 of 10, and another guy goes off. Defensively, what can you do to stop enough of them to a degree that you can have more points than they at the end of the game? And also, would you speak to Rodney Hood's contributions tonight?
That's the challenge right there. That's the challenge, and you know, and that's why they you know, retooled this team, went out and got KD to where there's really not much pressure on, you know, I want to say any of them to score, but if one of them have a bad game, then they got 3 or 4 guys that can actually pick up, you know, the load, you know, and as you've seen, you know, with KD picking it up today, you know, and Steph picking up in Game 2, they all have the ability to, you know, and we can't ever forget about Clay as a guy who scored 40 in a quarter before. So that's the luxury of having guys like that you can always, any given moment, to kind of, you know, go off for a game. And even though we held Steph, you know, to 1 3 tonight, the one he made was huge, huge. And so, you know, we got to continue to, you know, just, you know, grind and defend as we did tonight. I mean, out of their 9 threes made, KD had 6 of them. You know, they were 9 for 36. You know, and that's, you know, pretty dang on good. You know, holding that team, you know, to that shooting from the three-point line. But we got to do a little bit, you know, add a little bit more and keep grinding. To your second question, I thought Rodney Hood was Rodney Hood tonight. That's his. That was Rodney Hood, man, and you know, he was just aggressive from the beginning when he got in the game. Even though he missed his first 3, he had a wide open shot, but he just continued to push and push, and you know, his athleticism and his length and his touch around the rim. You know, it was, I think, more than just what he did for the team. I think for himself, I think that was just a huge moment for himself, and that was good to see. That was great to see, actually.
Last 2, Mark, and then Chris here in the third row.
LeBron, Mark Schwartz, ESPN. Knowing that you have that tremendous recall of moments in games, can you describe what was in your mind both tonight and last year when Kevin Durant launched that shot from the wing?
I actually think you should be like a psychiatrist. You want to just keep trying to get in somebody's mind. That's the whole thing, huh, Mark? What's in my mind, miss it so we can get the rebound.
Did it feel like last year to you? Did you think of it at that moment?
No.
Chris, last question over here.
LeBron, Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com. Going back to the margin for error thing, when you're playing against a team like the Warriors, how much stress do you feel throughout the course of the game? And is that something that can wear on you mentally in a way that it doesn't for other opponents?
Can I say it again, please?
The margin for error, knowing that it's small going into a game, can you talk about the level of stress that you feel throughout the course of a game knowing that? And does it wear on you mentally in a way that it wouldn't with other opponents?
Well, I can take it back kind of the battles that I had with the Spurs when I was in Miami. You just knew that they wouldn't beat themselves. You just knew that, like, every possession when we was playing, you know, San Antonio when I was in Miami, you just knew that if you made a mistake, Manu, Tim, Tony, Pop will make you pay. And at times they did make us pay, and then you sprinkle in what Gary Neal did to us one game, what Danny Green did to us one game, then Kawhi. You could never relax, you know. And when you have great basketball players, but also that can also think the game and be very cerebral about the game. That's what adds the level of stress, because you know that you can never, ever relax. And you should never want to relax. I mean, it's the finals, it's the playoffs. Even if it's a regular season game, you should always want to be on your toes. That's the part of competition is all about. So it adds to the level of stress. So when you have, Timmy D and Manu and Kawhi and Manu, and now you have Draymond and Clay, Steph and KD, and then you sprinkle in Iguodala and Livingston and all those guys as well, it adds a level of stress, because you know that you can never relax, and if you relax, they make you pay, and making you pay could cost you a game, so it's tough, but it's all part of the competition, which I love, and which I continue to lace them up every night. So, but hopefully I got your answer for you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, LeBron. Draymond and Steph will be next.
Really interesting thoughts about comparing them to comparing the Warriors to the Patriots, and then taking you back to those Spurs days, and how the margin for error against this particular team is just so thin. And I thought he made a great point about Steph Curry. Yes, Steph had a horrendous night. Missed his first 9 threes. But the 3 he made, what did it do? It made a 1-point game, a 4-point game. The lead for Golden State stretched from 1 to 4 with that made 3. And that just leads to the stress that James is talking about. And then you got a guy making a 30-something footer, and that's a wrap. And now Friday is a game to continue this series and to stretch the season and perhaps his time in Cleveland. So a lot on the docket for Friday. Rachel, still standing by. Thank you, Rachel. We will take a quick break, and when we return, we will get the information from Steph Curry that Rachel has gleaned. She talked to him after a bad night for him, but a good night for his team. They're up 3-0. SportsCenter continues. Time to do your research on the significant impact of the thin man, Kevin Durant. Impossible to guard. 12 of 20 in Game 3 on contested shots. 20 of the 23 attempts were with a man on him. He still got loose for 43. He was 11 of 27 on contested shots in the first 2 games. Did a ton of his damage from outside, a 7-foot guard. KD 11 of 15 outside the paint, including 6 of 9 from behind 3. Bailed out his normally great shooting teammates, who were just 4 of 22 from outside the paint as a group. It's interesting to hear LeBron sort through that. We did a pretty dang good job, I believe was his quote. Yeah, against everybody but this dude. The scoring helped open up teammates who were 7 of 9 off his passes. All of his 7 assists were from 2-point range. So when he wasn't scoring, he was putting them in position to succeed, and often from point-blank range like that. His partner in crime, Steph Curry, goes 3 of 16 and missed his first 9 threes, but that one right there was significant. Made the lead 4 points in the game. Can't leave that guy naked from 3. Steph afterwards on the evening and his one contribution from deep.
It was a crazy night all the way around, and didn't have anything going offensively. Tried to still play with energy and try to do little things here and there to help the team, but to get one good shot down the stretch and still have confidence in myself, knock it down. My teammates were talking to me the whole game, which was helpful, and thankfully, that last one went in. So me and my brother, when we always, growing up shooting and playing, we always say you got to make your last shot before you leave the gym. Got it done tonight.
After an egregious breach of etiquette, rude treatment of our guests, Rachel Nichols kindly waits, host of The Jump, of course, covering the finals for us in Cleveland. And Rachel, as I mentioned, you talked to Steph Curry, and the numbers were hideous, but I thought LeBron's point was interesting. The 3 he made was huge. I'm curious what Steph had to say about the evening.
Yeah, well, I was in the locker room right after they opened it up, and Steph and Durant are actually just both in the same corner, getting some ice, chatting with each other. Obviously, very different games from the two of them. Durant gets up to go to the shower, and I'm talking to Steph, and he's just shaking his head and saying, "I'm glad we won, but Rach, I'm glad we won, but that was hard." And he has scratches all over his body. His leg is actually bleeding a little bit, scratches on his neck, scratches on his back. He said it was a rough night. We're talking a little bit about his shooting, and I pointed out to him that when Ray Allen set the 3-point record that Steph broke the other night, Ray set it with 8 3-pointers in 2010. Ray Allen actually came back in the next game and went 0 for 8 from three in his
Really?
next game. So I told Steph to that, and Steph's eyes lit up because he really idolizes Ray, thinks Ray is fantastic shooter. Really? Really? Is that true? Really? Really? And I had to assure him that that was true. And that was it. He just lit up after that, and he was like, okay, I'm good. It's fine.
And they're up 3-0. On the other hand, Cavaliers
he said, I got one.
Yeah, there you go. And it was a big one. The Cavalier locker room, and you were there as well. It had to be the polar opposite. What was the takeaway from the room?
Yeah, I mean, quiet, as you would expect. I mean, it's interesting looking around there, and you heard it in the press conference as well. Those guys feel like, what else are we supposed to do? And that is a feeling most teams playing the Warriors have. Kyle Korver made an interesting point to me. He's like, look, their stars are the ones hitting three-point shots and those crazy shots like Kevin Durant is hitting. So all their role players have to do is roll to the basket and score at the rim. And we've been talking about that all night, right? Tim Legler talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, on our team, the role players have to hit threes. And he said that's a lot more pressure. Him, JR, that kind of thing. Now, LeBron did hit a big three tonight, but they really do need those role players to hit their threes. They weren't able to do it. Kyle was saying, I had two open looks. And remember, he had that big open look in Game 3 of the finals last year that he couldn't hit as well. I think this is going to haunt them for a long time. And, of course, Scott, now the pressure is going to be on Friday. It's not just to extend the series. And, of course, no team's ever come back from 3-0. Everybody is aware this could be LeBron James' last game in Cleveland. They know what that means. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I think that they'll get a win. But it's going to be a lot to bounce back from tonight, Rachel. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
One big thing.
Kevin Love and J.R. Smith both made their first shots of the night. They were both threes. The Cavs led by a dozen, the blink of an eye. The building's going nuts, and Cleveland looked like they might get on the board here in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Those two combined to go 5 of 9 from three for 25 points in the first half, so somebody other than LeBron was pitching in. The big problem was that Kevin Durant went for 24 in the first half, too, with an and one and a three in the final minute of the half that brought the Warriors within 6. Felt like the Cavaliers played an excellent half, and yet they led by only 6. The Warriors have been terrifying in the third quarter throughout this postseason. They found that gear yet again to take the energy out of the building and grab a lead through 3 quarters. Among the things I did not anticipate I would see this series, seeing Rodney Hood make meaningful fourth quarter contributions. He'd played 7 minutes in the Cavs' last 7 playoff games, and there he was rewarding Ty Lue's faith with buckets. I never dreamed he'd be outscoring Steph Curry in a finals game, but Curry was in the midst of one of his worst playoff games of his career. He was 1 of 14, hadn't made a 3, missed his first 9 after hitting 9 in his last game. His first gave Golden State a 4-point lead late. Durant's 6th 3 of the night pushed it to 6, took him to 43, and that was a wrap. Golden State just has too many ways to beat you. They can absorb a night like Curry had and still win a game on the road that they did not have to have that Cleveland did. Brian Windhorst has become a very dignified last word to this show, and we've enjoyed that. And Brian, I want to get to a couple quick ones here. LeBron rolled his ankle early, and I know people eye roll when he gets injured because, he's dramatic, this, that, and the other thing. What can you tell us about the severity of it?
Yeah, it bothered him, I think, throughout the rest of that first half. If you watched him closely, he was landing only on his left leg. He missed some shots when he was off balance. After the game in the locker room, I watched him as he was going to the shower after icing, and he said, "You're looking to see if I'm limping, aren't you?" And I go, "Yep." And he said that I wouldn't show you if I was limping, even if I needed to. So he did hobble a little bit down the hallway when he was leaving the arena. He's going to play on Friday. He's also dealing with that leg injury that he suffered against the Celtics where he got leg whipped, and the eye injury. He's got a whole bunch of things going on, and he's not 100%. He's not going to be 100% the rest of the series, and he knows that, and just pile another one on, but it won't slow him down, won't stop him from playing Friday.
The bumps and bruises are one thing, but the emotional scar tissue, given what happened in Game 1 and in this one, have to be far worse. I mean, just as you take the temperature of the room, I mean, how much belief do you think there even is with that Cavalier team?
Well, I think the Cavs feel like they haven't put their best foot forward. And, last year they dealt with this. They really thought they should have won Game 3 last year. And they felt like all summer, it could have been 2-2. What if it was 2-2? And so they got back here. The Warriors did not play their best game tonight. They did not play very well in Game 1. Game 2, they were awesome. But the Warriors have only really put forth their best game once. They've got incredible performance from Kevin Durant. And so the Cavs look at themselves, LeBron looks at it and says, all these mistakes, and it's 3-0. It could be 2-1. And they're just having a hard time dealing with that now, and they're having a hard time dealing with the fact that the Warriors have owned them the last 2 years. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, we've got about 30 seconds left. I agree, you could the best foot forward, this and that, but Golden State just won a game where Steph Curry went 3 of 16. I have to think that buoys their spirits just as much. I just wonder, and I'm asking, you're guessing here, as I would be, you feel like they'll win on Friday night? Do you feel like this team can bounce back and give their best effort, put their best foot forward?
I really don't know, because I feel like the Warriors were really emboldened after this game that they wanted to end it this time. And like I said, the Warriors have not played well in 2 of the 3 games.
All right, Brian. Appreciate your time. Look forward to visiting with you again on Friday. Thanks, man.
Okay.
All right, Stan and Neil are next from Los Angeles. They will be with us after this break, and we will see you tomorrow and Friday after Game 4.